Hey guys, welcome back. This is the third video in the Dodge Ram 1994 to 2001 Dodge Ram NV4500 swap from an automatic. Today we're going to be working in a lot of the interior parts now, and then also removing some of the smaller parts that my automatic transmission had as like aftermarket components to help make it work. Some of it's very strange. I'll be showing you that a little bit later in the video, and then also just some wiring and stuff like that. We're going to be removing the column shifter, and then we're going to be removing some bulbs and the Prindle shift plastic and stuff like that. So we're going to be getting into that, and I think I have one other thing on my truck that might be different. I have a posi lock for my front axle, so you might not have that. That might change a few things as far as like having a hole in the firewall or replacement of some of the components are, but it's all going to be relatively the same. So we're going to jump right into it. Okay guys, one of the first things that we're going to do, which is actually pretty difficult in this whole process, from what I've read and seen, apparently it's kind of hard for a lot of people, is actually swapping out the brake pedal and the clutch pedal. So I'm going to explain this the best way I can, and I'm going to try to show you the best way I can. So your brake pedal is normally assembled like this, but it's actually like up almost by the steering column. So it kind of comes up and goes all the way until like maybe the center in the back here. And this is the rod that goes through it. You're going to have about I think it was like 2 or 3 bushings, and it's these little plastic guys that look like this. So you're gonna have like these plastic washers that sit on the end. You're gonna have one at the end there. You're going to also have possibly like a washer, and then you're going to have a clip at the end as well. So there's a clip, it's like a C-clip at the end of the rod right here, and it's on both sides. So you're also going to have one of these E-clips that sit on the actual brake pedal itself, right, I believe right on this section right here. And there's also you're going to need one of these E-clips as well for the clutch pedal right here. So I just have mine hooked in. What you're going to do is you're going to remove this C-clip at the end. You're going to push the rod all the way through to the accelerator pedal. It should come out on the other side, and your brake pedal should come through. And then there's a whole brace up underneath. Now, then you can take your clutch pedal right here and your new brake pedal, and then you can grease up the end of the rod and just slide it all the way through, and then just put the clip back on that wasn't there. And you're going to have these plastic white bushings in between. Okay guys, this is probably the best angle I can get for you. That's the rod I'm talking about, and it goes all the way to the end of that plate that's kind of in the back past that yellow wire. That's the clutch pedal where it'll attach to the slave cylinder. So that's where the bushing will be for that. And then if we move a little bit over, that's the steering column. That's where my brake pedal is right there. So the whole shaft goes through the whole assembly, and you can just reuse the whole thing. You just need the 2 pedals. You don't need to get the whole like giant assembly. All right, now we're going to move on to the floor and cutting the floor. Okay, we're going to start by removing the 4x4 boot here for the automatic. There's 6 Phillips head bolts. Oh man, oh boy. Well, okay, we got it all apart now, because these are going up for sale. So if anybody has a automatic and needs a boot, you know, I'll put this on eBay. I'll clean it up and, you know, put it on a bunch of sites and stuff like that, see if anybody wants it. We're gonna have to cut the carpet a little bit, and I'm wondering if I can use this template right here of this boot. I might be able to seat that in there like this, and also see where I might need to cut it. I think I'm going to need to cut it like right here. So we're not going to cut it really far up, but we're going to have to cut the carpet back at least up into this point. So I'm gonna grab a marker and we're gonna mark this out and see if I can cut it. All right, here we go. All right, now that we've thoroughly cut a hole in the floor with various tools, I'm gonna try to clean up the edges with a file, try to make it at least look a little bit better and be a little bit more safe so you don't cut yourself. I'm gonna try to clean up both holes, and that should be it. All right, guys, so I luckily was able to remove my dash bezel. There's a couple connections, so one for your cigarette lighter, and then I think one for your power outlet. And then you're gonna have a couple connections for the trays, one below and then one above for the cup tray. It kind of sucks. Mine looks like it's broken here. So we're gonna have to keep going. This is part of my electrical connections I was talking about before, where my transmission has some like weird lockup switch for like third or fourth gear or something like that. It's really strange. So yeah, we're just kind of in the middle of trying to remove this, and we are going to swap it in for just a regular one. I'll show you in a second. We're gonna basically be taking this, well, it was a part of the factory, and just replacing it with another regular one. So you can kind of see there's just the overdrive button here, and then just I don't even know, it's like a stamped piece of plastic. On this one, like, I don't know, they had a bunch of stuff going on in LED and like a switch and stuff. So we'll keep plugging away. So if you have a tilt column shift knob, it actually just screws out, and then this hole comes off. Okay guys, so quick update. I was able to get the whole thing out. So what ended up needing to happen was that I needed to pull out your whole steering column plastic right here, and you start with 3 Torx bits. And I think this, I don't know what size this is. It's a T20, and it's a small skinny screwdriver, and there's 3 of them underneath your steering wheel. So you remove those 3 underneath there, and then the plastic should come off under here, and you just need to wiggle the top of it. So then once you do that, and you just need to move your shift column around until you can kind of wiggle this whole assembly out. And essentially what you want to do, there's a screw at the bottom right here that you need to remove, and then there's one on the back side that you also need to remove. They're just Phillips screws. And what I was able to do is kind of wiggle it out this way and flip it back and down like this, and just kind of wiggle it out, because there's actually some ribbon connectors right here for some of your lights. So you don't want to tear the ribbon connector from this. So you got to be very careful, guys. We have the PRNDL shift right here, which is actually just a spring and like a cable. So we're going to remove the spring and cable, and then we're going to just put a piece of essentially plastic on the back of it. So this piece of plastic right here is just going to get screwed in from the back right here and right there in the same places I showed you before. And that's just going to cover your park reverse neutral drive. So before you had the park reverse neutral drive, and this is from 1994 to 97, you'll kind of have this set up in the middle. For 98 to 01, you're going to have like a setup down here. So like I said, it's just a couple screws. There's one up there and then one down here. So all right guys, so I'm trying to remove the steering column here. We've got well, I'm not removing the steering column, but I'm trying to remove all the automatic stuff for it. And these like weird round pieces kind of clip on as like spacers that go in the back right here, and then you have these two like nuts that go on the studs that the steering column sits on. This the steering column shifter will be basically like a tiny little cable, and it's way back in here with a white screw, so kind of see it maybe right down in there. We're going to try to remove that, and then this whole like this is for your PRNDL shift. We're going to try to take that out as well. And what I believe to get rid of, how to get rid of this, I think you just need to punch it out from like right there. I might need to just take a punch and punch this section out, and then I guess we'll just have to leave it in. Otherwise, there's quite a bit you have to dismantle on your actual shift column. So we're probably going to try to just do it the easiest way possible and call it a day. I was able to remove the pin for the shift. This should just kind of wiggle out like that. So, and I was able to remove that with just a hammer. This punch right down here, and punched it out through this tiny little hole right here. So now we are not going to be using this shifter anymore. I reinstalled my overdrive and other button and got rid of the weird ATS thing. Here's like the ATS module. I guess it locks up the torque converter electronically on the automatic transmission, which is really interesting. So we're going to be selling that with the transmission as a whole kit and everything like that. I was able to remove the wire for the shift column. It's right here. It kind of came out. It slips off of like this plastic tab that's like on the shift column right there. And then a screw adjusts it for your PRNDL shift right there. I just attached it with the tiny little like spring that it came with. I also zip tied it up and made sure you kind of have to pull up on it right here. If you're not swapping out your entire steering column, I just pulled up on it. There's a tab at the bottom that your sort of TV cable gets hooked up to that goes to your transmission. And I just pulled up on this. I heard it click, and then you have to test to make sure that your key actually fits within your key lock. I might be switching out this entire shift column, or I'm sorry, the entire steering column in the future. I don't know. This build has cost enough already, and I don't want to really spend too much money on it right now. So this is something in the future that I can just kind of get by with. So because I'm doing this on a 1997, this next thing will apply to a 1994 to 1997. When you're taking out your dash right here, there's an overdrive light on the 1998 to 2001 that you remove from inside this dash here. It's like a little bulb, and then also a trans temp. You're not going to have a trans temp with a manual transmission, so we need to remove that. Well, from 1994 to 1997, the bulbs are actually located in your climate control system right here. So in order to remove that, there was 4 screws, Phillips. There's 2 at the top and then 2 at the bottom. And what I did was I took a screwdriver, like a long one, and I got up in here. There's going to be these tabs that kind of look like this. Pried up on this gently. There's 6 of them, very gently. And then I removed some of the knobs so that I can pull this off. And you're going to kind of get behind here, pry it up on both sides, and this whole thing should fall out. In order for me to get better access, I removed some of the wiring in the back. And the bulb should actually be the third one to the, or I'm sorry, the fourth one to the right. It's really tiny. It looks like that. And so we're not going to need that anymore for the NV4500. I've been spending a lot of time trying to clean up all the wiring for my NV4500, so I'm going to continue to keep doing that, and we're going to put the dash back together. For the master and slave cylinder, you'll see on your reservoir right here that it's actually a triangle. On the 1998 and up, it seems like there's like 2 like bolt patterns that'll go into the section underneath the dash right there that'll go in to your pedal. So what we're gonna do is you slide it into the hole, and then you just turn it, and it should fit right in. So we're gonna do that really quick. You can kind of see I had to remove a bunch of cables, and there's actually a plug on the 94 to 97 where you just need to push it through and it'll come out. So you push in the new clutch slave cylinder, and then you twist it, and it should go in just fine. Now for the reservoir, for it to kind of get installed, you'll actually notice in here there's 2 divots. There's one right there, and then there's one kind of equidistant that way. And from the factory, it's kind of interesting, they're like punched in there for the manual reservoir. So what we're going to do is just drill a couple holes and put a bunch of self tappers in there, and then I'll be right back. Okay guys, we got the clutch reservoir installed right here. Just a couple of self tappers. I took a tiny drill bit that looked to fit the same shaft size as the self tapper screws. Got one there right in the divot, just like it had from the factory, so you can put that down. That's all good. Now we're gonna jump onto the transmission and try to get that squared away to install. Alright guys, all of the interior is completely put back together. I got the knee bolster put back together, 5 screws, just a handful of screws holding this in. I was able to get my posi lock just sort of started. I have another video on that, so if you'd like to have a posi lock, just, you know, feel free to watch that video. I got my my pedal here, works great. I might need to add some grease. You can kind of see like there's some play also in the brake pedal, but that works perfectly fine. I got my boots in right here, and I also have the whole shifter in. This is just some generic shifter like off of eBay. There's a ton of those. It's just pretty much shipping from China. It's just some easy thing. I do have the like original knob that would come on one, but I would need to have like a whole other shift stick as well. So I got my 4x4 in. Keep an eye out for one of the other videos that I'll be posting, probably the last video in the series of how to modify this bracket, because the 47RE automatic to the manual is completely different. So yeah, keep an eye open for that. But the boot went in perfectly fine. It was great. It was just held in by some like panel screws, some like self-tapping sort of black panel screws. So that's all in. Yeah, the dash is all put back together. Got to be careful with the orientation of your speedo sensor in your T-case, otherwise your speedo will not work. It seems like the bolt on the very high end of the speedo where the plastic is needs to be facing towards the driver's side and like close to the transfer case. So it's like it needs to be clocked clockwise. If you're, you know, kind of doing this yourself, you'll notice it and you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. Yeah, everything's put back together. All of this sort of just snaps into place, and we're good to go. All right guys, a few things just to kind of wrap up for the interior part. So you're gonna have 3 wires. One of these wires you can kind of see already, I have it tied up to the slave cylinder on the transmission right here. I just have it grounded just so I could test the truck out and drive it around and see how it feels or if there's any problems. So I just grounded it. This will go to your clutch neutral safety switch. These 2 wires right here, they actually just complete a circuit for your reverse lights, and they need to go to like a 2-prong plug that goes to the top of your transmission. It just kind of goes like up right here towards the front of the plate. Depending on what top plate you have, these will need to get soldered and put onto that plug. But this wire, you're actually going to run up to your clutch neutral safety switch. So I'll kind of show you briefly what that will look like. All right, it's going to be kind of a mess, but I think you can kind of see right up there, right there. So you're going to hook up your clutch safety switch there. Once you hook it up right there, it should plug into yellow connector. It'll look like this connector right here. It'll look very similar to that. I actually think it's tucked back in there, and it'll clip on. So you'll have your neutral safety switch clipped on there. Then you'll bring a wire up, and it's just going to complete a ground circuit. So the switch, the ground wire will get plugged into here, go onto your switch, and then from your switch it'll go to a grounding. It'll go to a ground. So then when that switch closes, it'll allow you to start your truck. So some people completely switch over their steering column. Some people don't. I'm not yet, but I probably will in the future. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Pretty much the gist of it for all the interior. So yeah, you'll just have those bulbs, and everything else should work just fine for a 94 to 97. All right, that'll pretty much conclude the 3rd video in the series, where we're just kind of focusing on the interior. Like we've seen in the series, you know, cutting a hole in the floor is a big bulk of the whole work for the interior. Some of it's just the wiring, and then also pulling apart your whole dash and being able to source like some of the plastic bits and being able to take all of the dash parts out is actually relatively easy. The clutch pedal and cutting a hole in the floor are probably the two biggest things. Now, I noticed after the installation of the transmission and doing everything that in cutting the hole, it's actually important that you do cut a hole bigger than you would kind of think. I know that previously, like kind of in the video, I was showing that I was trying to cut a smaller hole than I thought the factory kind of wanted, but it actually is important to cut a bigger hole as you're moving the transmission in. You want to have a bigger hole so that you can just mate everything up and it's nice and quick and easy. Yeah, and then everything else is pretty much just wiring from there, and it should be pretty good. So I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. I hope it was really helpful. If you need any more information, it's in the description below. Check out my previous videos if you think this one was awesome or helpful. I've got a ton. I'll be uploading as much as I can, when I can. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.